Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition, a Memorial Day edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show. It may be a holiday, but we're here talking about the Guardians, and how could we not? The team is playing incredible baseball, and we're going to get into all of it right here on today's edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show. As always, folks, I like to keep it real on our show. So the truth is, we were supposed to be on at 10 o'clock, and I had just a weird, crazy night. I'm not going to get into every last detail. It's really nothing salacious. I said it like it's something salacious, but it's not. And I woke up at 10 o'clock, because I had forgotten to tell my wife to wake me up, because I never set an alarm, because I usually get up at like 7 every morning. But anyway, it was a weird night. So I was still sleeping at 10 o'clock. Zach had texted very politely what's going on. And I was like, I just woke up, and to make matters worse, I'm careful about this. I needed a little while in the bathroom. I'll just say that. Sorry, Zach. But here we are going 30 minutes later, and plenty to talk about today. Zach, you didn't need that, but how are you? You ready to go here? There's a lot of fun things to talk about with this team right now.
I'm completely thrown off now.
Yeah, I know that.
Hey, at least your eye is better. Last week we had the red eye.
Yeah. The red eye is pretty much gone. There's still remnants there, but it's pretty much gone. Yeah.
Who knows what next week will bring?
You never know. I might be in a cast. I might have a leg amputated. I don't know what. I'm in a weird place right now, but the Guardians are in a much better place than I am. This is unbelievable the way they're playing. Their longest winning streak since, of course, the unbelievable 22-game winning streak in the late 2017 season that had this town full of Guardians fever, if you will.
I mean, it's crazy. I know when we did our show opening week, it was our first show, and I predicted, I think, 106 wins for this team. You said 107, and we both look like we're selling them short.
That's true. It's hard to believe how well they're playing. They have the second best record in all of baseball at 19 games over 500. You put out a tweet yesterday. If I was more prepared, I would have posted the tweet on the show, but we could just recap it. So why don't you tell the folks what you tweeted out yesterday about their history with this record, Zach?
Yeah, so they've never had a better start. This is a franchise that has existed since 1901, so 124 seasons. And yeah, there were some rough days there for, like 4 decades.
Yes.
But they've started 36-17 4 times. And the first time was 1920. They won the World Series. They started 36-17 in 1954. They reached the World Series that year. They started 36-17 in 1995. They reached the World Series that year. So I guess we just have to pencil them in. Don't make plans for late October.
We can only hope that that's the case again. I mean, it tells you how remarkable this is. And, we spent a lot of the first 6 weeks saying, how is this happening? How is this happening? How is this happening? And then last week, we kind of came to an agreement to say, okay, it's happening. So doesn't matter why or how. And things have even gotten better since then. Since we agreed to that last Monday, they have not lost a game. I mean, it's nuts.
I know that as the calendar flips to June here, I'm sure we'll start talking more about what they need. And it's such a healthy conversation too, for once. Like, there is no question what their stance at the trade deadline should be, right? Like, that's a good place to be. It feels like the last few years it's been like, well, should they be buyers? Should they be sellers? Should they stand pat? Should they do both? But I think that's kind of what you're saying is what the front office, that should be their mindset, where it doesn't matter how you've gotten to 19 games over 500. You're there. You're in position to actually do something and make a run. So figure out what's working and what's not and make the necessary upgrades. I think that's the thing, where even if you don't think this is sustainable, even if you're scratching your head saying, it doesn't really add up to me, I'm not really understanding this, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You're 36-17. Your win percentage is .679, which is outrageous. You're on pace for like 109 wins. So capitalize on that. And I think that's That's the main thing. There is a formula that's working here. And, I don't think they're going to be able to go 162 games without having some sort of setback at some point. They'll have a losing streak. But you got to this point, and we just talked about how rare it is to have a start like this. So go and take advantage of it when you can.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, June is when trades start happening. Before we circle, I mean, you brought it up, so I'm going to just go with it for a little bit, and we'll circle back to what they've been doing specifically. But there's no doubt. Not only is it 100% crystal clear that they should be buyers because the team is very good, but it's 100% crystal clear that as well as they've played, there are obvious needs on this team. So, sometimes you have a team. It's rare, but sometimes a team is so good and you're like, I don't see where we need an obvious upgrade, but there are obvious upgrades, which is part of the remarkableness, if you will, of how they're playing so well. But this team, these players, this manager have earned the right for ownership to be all in this year. If you're not going to spend during the season this year, then when will you spend? I mean, they have come this far now, just past the 1/3 point of the season with one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. And it will be time for some upgrades here in the next, 4 weeks or so. So hopefully, and I'm optimistic, maybe I'm kidding myself, but I'm optimistic that the team, that ownership will do at least somewhat of what it takes to get it done. And I trust the front office that if the purse strings are open somewhat, that they can make the right moves.
This is a rare position for them because even when Terry Francona was here, it was slow starts and then find their stride in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And, like 2011, they got off to that good start we talked about. That team never seemed like it was legitimate. I mean, you had like Shelly Duncan hitting fourth or whatever. But they went and got Ubaldo Jimenez, and because they thought, this is the start of something. Maybe we backslide this year, but let's set our foundation. Jimenez had 2.5 years of team control. And so they were aggressive then. 2016, it felt like the start of something. We talked about how they won 14 in a row that June. It really put them on the map. They went and they were aggressive. Andrew Miller tried to get Jonathan Lucroy. Brandon Guyer was a critical piece.
Yeah.
So, but most years they'd start slow. You struggle to figure out exactly what you had. And then, so sometimes that can influence your decision-making where you think, well, it's not worth it to pounce at the trade deadline because, it's not going to be the thing that puts us over the top. Well, this year, there's no question. And you can still look ahead to the future and think, let's target guys with 2-3 years of control because this is the start of something. You have a young team. You should be able to maintain this, but you can't just bank on that. You can't say, well, you're good this year. Let's let these kids grow. And next year's the year we'll make our move. Like you can't do that. So the best way to approach that is to trade for guys who have multiple years of control and can help you this year and next. The next best thing is just capitalize on what you have this year. You never know. I mean, teams make runs. They have hot seasons all the time. And especially in baseball in October, a lot of things can happen. So I'm with you. I think it's very important. I think, it's a really weird year. I have to do power rankings every week. And I was looking at the standings this week and like, there are a cluster of like 7 teams at the top. Somehow the Guardians and Royals are in that mix.
Yep.
And then there's a ton of teams that are just hovering around 500.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see all those teams around 500, how they play over the next 6 weeks to decide which bucket they go into. Are they sellers? Are they buyers? Because there could be some interesting names that pop up at the deadline that we might not be thinking about right now.
Yeah, and I look at the American League specifically, Zach, to your point, and we know what Kansas City's done. I mean, you got to treat them as legit right now. If I'm going to be all in on the Guardians to some degree, I got to be all in on the Royals. They're not.
None of it makes sense,
right? So now we know the Orioles are really good. We knew they'd be good going into the season. Uh, every year it's assumed the Yankees are going to be good. The last few years I said the Yankees won't be good, and I've been right. This year I said it again, and I'm wrong. Clearly, the Yankees are didn't the Yankees get somebody from the Guardians in their pitching infrastructure? I feel like they got somebody from
Matt Blake's their pitching coach.
Right.
He worked his way. I was just writing about him this morning.
Yeah.
He helped Shane Bieber a lot.
I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but the Yankees, who their pitching always seems to underachieve outside of Garrett Cole, they lose him, and they've pitched extremely well. So, listen, the Yankees and Orioles are legit. They'll be contenders. But, I mean, the way the Guardians have played to this point this season, I think they can compete with anyone, especially if you add at the right spot. So I hope that the organization goes all in, because an October playoff run, I mean, we had so much fun with this team in 2016, and I know 2017, the way it ended against the Yankees, that was disappointing. And then obviously 2 years ago, it ended against the Yankees, but it's fun. I mean, there's nothing better than October baseball with a scrappy, exciting team. And unlike the team 2 years ago that lost to the Yankees, this team, while they don't have the power that the Yankees have, they do have more power. And as of today, they are 10th in the league in home runs per game. I mean, at 1.11 home runs per game, and at home in particular, Zach, they have been unbelievable. We were talking about this on the flagship show, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, the other day. Like, do you think the taking out those big shipping crates affected anything? I don't know if it did, but they've been fine hitting home runs on the road. I mean, not amazing, but they've been okay. But if you look at home runs at home, they're sixth in all of baseball. Actually, and really, they're tied for fifth with Milwaukee. Do you make anything of that? What do you make of the home? Do you think it has anything to do with the shipping crates, or just coincidence?
It's been a launching pad so far. Yeah. I'm curious to see, like, the weather's been solid at home lately, but when you get into June and July and you get those days where it's 85 degrees, maybe the wind's blowing out, I want to see what it looks like then.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it. I mean, there's more air circulating now in right field because they left some of that. They took out some of that wall. So it's something that I'm sure they looked into, that they'll have to keep studying. But it's never played like a hitter's park like this.
No.
And it's an interesting thing because, this has not been a team that's hit for much power. So you would think that it's not a great match, but you think about Naylor and Ramirez have hit for a ton of power so far this season. Ramirez is on pace for like 45 home runs, which would be a career high. It would be the most by any Cleveland hitter since Jim Thome in 2002. And then you think about Manzardo, guys like Jonathan Rodriguez chased a lot. Like, there are guys coming who have some power.
Big time.
So maybe that plays into your hands. And plus, because you're always so good at pitching, maybe it's better to have it that way. And you can prevent other teams from hitting home runs, and you can benefit from the young power hitters that you have coming up. I don't know. So far, it's worked, though. But it's going to be interesting to watch when you get into like July and August, and the ball usually flies more that time of year anyway. And now it might just be like, it might be like a bandbox, like Cincinnati or Yankee Stadium.
Could be fun. All right. I want to talk more about Jose Ramirez. Is he on his way to an MVP season in just a second? Real quick, though, I do want to talk about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS, and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You mentioned Jose at the beginning of that, Zach, in terms of the pace he's on for home runs. And, there was some thought, maybe in the deep recesses of everybody's mind, was last year the year he starts to slowly decline, as players did pre-steroids once they reach a certain age. And early this season, he got off to a bit of a slow start. But, man, outside of maybe Aaron Judge, I don't think there's a hotter hitter in baseball right now. And like Aaron Judge, I think Jose Ramirez is certainly in the conversation for the MVP. Now, it's silly to have that conversation at the end of May, but it's fun. So I'm going to go with it. Jose Ramirez is back to playing back to playing his best baseball. He might be playing better than he ever has. I mean, he's unconscious right now. They cannot get him out.
The last 3 weeks, he has 10 home runs and 10 strikeouts. You just don't see that in today's game. He's a marvel. I mean, it's like the longer an at bat goes, the more you just assume he's going to do something incredible. And you just see him learning. You see him. There was an at bat on Sunday where he couldn't hold up. You could see his timing was messed up, or he didn't recognize the pitch. I think it was I don't remember if it was a curveball or a slider, and he kind of like got caught in between. And you see him shaking his head as he goes back to the dugout because he expects greatness every time he steps in there. And how can you argue? Just the run he's been on lately. I mean, he got off to a slow start, and it was a lot of impatience, just chasing at pitches because he was so eager to swing, wanted to inflict damage on every pitch, and probably like last year felt like he had to carry the offense. And the patience comes back a little bit. The key with him is like if you're going to, you get into your 30s, every hitter meets decline at some point. But why do they meet decline? Is it because the bat speed isn't there? Is it because they're just older and slower and they don't, their body doesn't move the way they do, so they can't reach certain pitches? Or, it's not like the skills that he has where he can recognize, the strike zone so well. So he usually doesn't chase, and he can make contact with anything. Like those things, they could age pretty well. Like I thought as he got older, he would turn into more of like a singles and doubles hitter, and you would just lose some of that power. But his innate ability to make contact and to swat fastballs and to just yank everything, like that's not just going to disappear overnight. So what is so impressive, and what tells me that he's nowhere near that decline, the fact that he's got 15 home runs, the bat speed's there, the power's there. It's incredible. And so you just see like what has worked so well for this team this year is when one person or one part of the roster suffers or takes a step back, someone else steps up. Josh Naylor carried this lineup in April. He's been in a miserable slump the last few weeks. Jose Ramirez has gone on a tear. So you don't miss a beat that way. And he's been incredible, and it's been a good reminder because there were some people who were worried. The guy's in his 30s. And you need him to be that centerpiece of the lineup, and he has been.
There are 10 players in Major League Baseball with 13 or more home runs right now. And amongst those 10 players, Jose Ramirez has the least amount of strikeouts with 26, which is crazy. I mean, for a player to have 26 strikeouts and be one of the premier power hitters right now is like unheard of. And the guy who's the second least amount of strikeouts is Josh Naylor, which he has 33, and then Kyle Tucker of the Astros has 36. Everybody else has the 40s, 50s, or 60s of those big-time home run hitters. So, I mean, you have the two guys with the most home runs that strike out the least. It's really incredible, and you're right. That's even with Naylor in a major slump. And what's incredible is in April, you say that Naylor carried the team, and he did. And the guy who was carrying it with him was basically Kwan, and he hasn't played for a while, and Naylor hasn't done anything for a while. And yet here they are, other guys, Jose Ramirez and kind of a host of other guys, including David Fry, although he had a quiet game yesterday. But whenever they've needed other guys to step up, even if they don't consistently do it all year, they have. And this team has been the definition of clutch almost all season long.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, think back to Jose Ramirez debuted in 2013. He was 20 years old. He was basically a pinch runner during their September run.
Yep.
The next year, they tried to give him the shortstop job. Couldn't hit. The next year, they tried to give him the shortstop job just until Francisco Lindor's service time was manipulated. He couldn't hit. So he arrives at spring training in 2016. He's 23 years old, career 239 hitter, no power. Now look at him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 6 weeks away from passing Albert Bell and Manny Ramirez to move into second place on the all-time home run leaderboard in franchise history, behind only Jim Thome. Who would have thought that?
That's nuts.
It's unbelievable, and I think there's so much talk about him year after year after year about he's underrated, he doesn't get enough attention, and I think nationally that's true. I hope locally it isn't.
No.
You know, I feel like we spend so much time talking about how he's underrated that
Yeah.
you know, maybe he's properly rated in Cleveland, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if people realize that. Like he's 11 home runs behind Albert Bell for second on the all-time list.
That's insane.
It's remarkable.
Imagine during those struggles he was having early in his career, if I would have said to you, or you would have said to me, yeah, someday he's going to pass Manny and Albert Bell and the Guardians and the Indians at the time home run list.
I mean, a legitimate Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's certainly on track. I mean, we'll see how the rest of his career goes, but the way he's playing this year, yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. He's been remarkable. He's a team leader. He's always like, we saw this at bat. I don't mean to kill him too much, but we saw this at bat this past week where Francisco Lindor looked like he wasn't even trying on a 3-2 pitch, and it was really bizarre. Like Jose is just full of energy every moment of every game. It's insane. It seems like the guy's never tired, which is impossible, but it just seems that way. And I think it's contagious. I mean, the whole team kind of seems to feed off him, and they're a ton of fun to watch.
He's got that. He's always had this too, but there's like this, I don't know if it's a killer instinct, but he wants to destroy you. You can kind of see it at certain points, whether he, if he strikes out on a pitch where he's really frustrated at himself, or if he hits a home run.
Yeah.
Where you see like the mannerisms, and then he gets back to the dugout and it's like, I might be 5'9", 185 pounds, but like I am the giant in this matchup. I think that's his mindset. And it is infectious. I mean, it's when you see him doing what he can do and you're in that dugout, how can you not be energized?
I think that's part of the reason he's been underrated over the years is because of his size. I think that's been a factor. Part of it's that he plays in Cleveland, but part of it is his size. And you know what? He may be underrated, I guess, nationally to some degree, but I don't think he's underrated amongst people that are like us, that love baseball and follow baseball. I don't think in any market, if you talk to diehard baseball fans anywhere in the country, I don't think Jose Ramirez is underrated. Maybe with the casual fan outside of Cleveland, but who cares about those people? I mean, it's insane. It's insane how good he's been this year.
It's an interesting topic. I feel like we could spend a whole show on it. I see Rocket Impossible made the comment on our chat that compared him to Joe Thomas, where he's just kind of under the radar and has just done what he does year after year for a long time. And if you think about it, I mean, you know how hard it is to make the Hall of Fame in baseball. It's I mean, it's really, really difficult. And Jose Ramirez, I mean, especially if he's proving this season that decline is still off in the future and it's not here yet, I think he's going to have a good chance. And the fact that he's going to spend most or all of his career in Cleveland, when was the last time? I mean, Jim Thome went in with a Cleveland cap, but like, I don't think CC Sabathia is. It's once in a blue moon where you have a player don your cap and go to the Hall of Fame, especially when it's Cleveland and guys don't stay for that long.
Right.
So, in football, like Joe Thomas, obviously a great example there. In basketball, if you're a Hall of Famer, I don't think you're flying under the radar.
No.
So in baseball, it's interesting to sort of do both things where you aren't maybe getting the national recognition you deserve, but at the same time, like you're on a track to Cooperstown. I mean, that's a really unique case.
And one of the Guardians' other best players may be on his way back to Cleveland. We're going to talk about that in just a second. First, folks, let me tell you, if you need tickets to the Guardians game and the Guardians are getting to be a hotter and hotter ticket, well, make sure you download the Game Time app NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, whatever you're looking for, make sure you check out the Game Time app. It is absolutely the best. You get tickets. You could get them day of, high-profile events, anything you're looking for. Create an account at the Game Time app. Use the code Locked On and get $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON, $20 off your first purchase with the Game Time app. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Zach, Saturday night, I went to Lake County to see Steven Kwan and Tugboat, which is a great nickname. He pitched well. He looked good. He had 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. He gave him 3 runs, gave him a homer, but I thought overall he looked pretty good. But the story really is Steven Kwan, who started his rehab assignment Saturday night at Lake County. He played left field. I want to say they pulled him in the 7th, I think he did. He had 3 at-bats. First at-bat, he had a hard ground ball to first. Second at-bat, a soft fly ball to left. And then in his 3rd at-bat, he absolutely smoked the ball to right center field for a 3-run homer. Now, I know it's against A-ball pitching, but that's not the point. The point is he played the outfield. He looked completely healthy. And I would think, I believe you suggested to me the other day when I was texting you about it, that he'll be back this Friday when the team comes home. Is that your thought?
Yeah, that would be my guess. I mean, he played back-to-back over the weekend, and he played, I think he DH'd 1 game, right? So you give him a day off. I would assume he'd play 2 more. Then they're all off on Thursday, and then Friday he'd be back in the lineup. And I think that'll be a nice jolt too, and take some of the pressure off Ramirez. And Jimenez has been better, so it'll be interesting to see what they do, because David Fry has earned more playing time. Kyle Manzardo's up here now.
Yep.
Estevan Florial's playing time has gone down. I think he'd be on the chopping block here.
Yep.
But still, you have to work guys into the lineup every day too. So, Manzardo, Naylor, Kwan, and Fry, that's 4 guys for 3 spots. Unless you want to sit Brennan some, that'd be a 4th spot. So that'll be interesting. But to have Steven Kwan back is huge. I mean, it's what they've done in his absence is incredible, because he went down. They lost 3 games against the White Sox, and it seemed like, okay, here's reality setting in. This offense isn't as good as we thought it was. But no, they keep humming along no matter who they lose.
It is amazing, because I think at the time we were both thinking like, maybe this is where it comes apart a little bit, because that was such a bad series against the White Sox. And he was so important to their lineup, and still is. It's remarkable how well they've played without him. And to bring his bat back into this lineup here in the next week will just be awesome. It is going to be interesting, with David Fry. I mean, I agree with you. Florial's probably the guy who's the odd man out. I think the one question I have, though, is, Bo Naylor has struggled so badly. Do you think there's any chance they would send him to the minors even for a couple of weeks? I mean, it's been 2 months now. Or you think that's completely off the table?
Yeah, I'd be really stunned. I think, first of all, he's been like one of the best defensive catchers in baseball.
Out of nowhere with this pitch framing.
Yeah, but think about who he's working with. I mean, every day he's around Austin Hedges, Sandy Alomar, Stephen Vogt, Craig Albernaz. I mean, there's no doubt, like, he's been one of the worst hitters in baseball.
Yeah.
And there's more talent in there. He was one of the best hitters in baseball for the last 6 weeks last season.
Right.
So I don't know how you fix that, and it's not an overnight fix. But I think they want him working with, the coaches that they have, the good influences that they have. And I also think they like the setup, right? So, Bo has been catching against most righties. You get Hedges in there once a week. And the way they've worked David Fry in, where he's catching once or twice a week, he's playing corner outfield once or twice a week, first base, DH, he's played third base a little bit. That versatility is huge, because even on a day where Fry doesn't start, he can pinch hit for anybody, because he can go play some position and they can move guys around. Or on the days he does start, you can pinch hit anyone at any time, because Fry can move somewhere. So I think they like doing that. If you sent Naylor down, Fry's your everyday catcher, you lose that versatility.
Yep.
And there's also less you can do on days Hedges starts and you want to pinch hit late in the game. So I get it. Like I think it could be beneficial for Bo Naylor to go to AAA to just see some easier pitching for a little bit and catch his breath. But I also think you have to think about the team here and what you do lose just overall roster flexibility wise if you send him down.
It's a fair question. Who would have guessed that at the end of May we'd be asking, saying, well, Bo Naylor can't hit right now, but we got to keep him up for his defense. I didn't see that coming 2 months into the season, but it is what it is. We really haven't talked about the pitching at all. There's so much to get to in 30 minutes, and we only got a couple of minutes left. But I do want to point out one guy, and that's Ben Lively, because, you know, Nate, they needed some other guys to step up with the injuries they've dealt with. But Ben Lively, you're talking about a guy who is the definition of journeyman. Last year was his first, you know, legitimate stay in the majors since 2017. He hadn't even been in the majors at all since 2019. And he was pretty bad for Cincinnati last year. He had a 5.38 ERA. This year for the Guardians, in 45 innings, he's got a 2.80 ERA, a solid 118 whip. He has 43 strikeouts in 45 innings. He has been unbelievable. I mean, I can't see it keeping up with him, I guess. I'm just going to hope, like, you know, but I got to give him credit. The guy's been phenomenal.
It's another one where, like, you look at his metrics and none of this makes sense. I looked up his best 8 start stretch of his career. His ERA in that stretch was 3.70, and now it's 2.80. And like, he shouldn't be peaking at the age of 32 after bouncing around. He didn't have a great year last year. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't matter. Like, that's the theme of the season so far. Don't try to make sense out of it. Just enjoy it, because he's been fantastic. I like the way he says, I don't care that I throw 89 miles an hour. I'm going to put it exactly where I want it, and just good luck. Try to hit it. And if you hit it, hopefully you pop it up or you hit it weekly. This season has been perplexing, bewildering, but entertaining for good reasons. So it's wild.
Real quick, 15 seconds. Is Emmanuel Clase already the best relief pitcher in Guardians history? That's a lot of pressure for 15 seconds.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
It's like he's finally doing what you should do when you throw 100 miles an hour with tons of movement, right? This is what we've been waiting for.
He's been unbelievable. Thank you all for watching and listening. We had record numbers of people tune in live. Record number. We shattered our record. Thank you. Thank you for all the comments. Sorry we didn't get to more comments. We love you all. We'll do this again next Monday. Enjoy your day off. Zach, great stuff as always. And hopefully the winning will continue, because they're playing the Rockies now, and the Rockies stink. So hopefully that trend will continue. We'll see you all next time on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.